you asked about the No Child Left Behind Act, and I actually had never looked too much into it. I mean, I know as far as what the actual act is or what purpose it serves. I know that it to allow the parents to choose which schools that their child can attend, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I can look up real quick. Okay, so I'm just reading this right off of a website here real quick to just get a quick, I refresh my memory as to what exactly it is. Federal law signed in 2002 that reauthorizes a number of federal programs aiming to improve the performance of U.S. primary and secondary schools by increasing the standards of accountability for state school districts and schools, and providing parents more flexibility in choosing which schools their children will attend. Based on that simple statement right there, I think that sounds pretty good. I mean, I think that definitely sounds like a viable idea into assisting the educational system. Now, I'm sure there's probably details behind it that I'm not familiar with. I mean, I'm scrolling down a little bit further. I see that it requires all teachers to be highly qualified. Definitely a great idea. I don't think teachers should just have a knowledge of the particular subject that they're teaching, but I think they should also be they should have education and knowledge as to how to portray that information. I say that from experience because one of the big things that I had a difficulty with in the beginning of my school year is I was always great at what I did, business, accounting, those type of subjects, and I never actually got a teacher's education in the idea of teaching me how to be a teacher. And that was a big handicap for me in the beginning of this year because I had to take what I knew, my knowledge, and put it into an idea that these kids could learn, and at different levels. Like I was saying a minute ago with the standardized testing, teaching accounting to a group of students is great, but not if they all have the same way of comprehending it. And these are a few different things that I'm actually continuing my education now to learn how to do. So, as far as the actual No Child Left Behind Act, those 2 points that I just read, I don't want to read too much into this and waste the video, doing my own research. I probably should have done this first. From what I'm looking at, those points that I just read out, I think that sounds like a viable start to the educational system. Like I said, there could be more details. Maybe I'm missing something. If you want to respond with what you know of it and just throw it my way, or I'll probably end up reading up more on it as soon as I get done with this video. And if I have to throw in a little amendment to my video here, then I will. Let me move on. The next question, number 4. Do I believe that my faith or the faith of my students helps in their education process? I don't believe that my faith has absolutely anything to do with it. I mean, I think you're probably referring to Christianity in general. Let me reword this question and see if maybe this is where you were going with. Do I think that if all kids were Christians, or do I think that Christians learn better because they hold themselves to a higher standard or something? Not necessarily. I think when it comes down to the education process itself, I don't think faith, religion, or anything like that would really have anything to do with it. I think it's more of a self-discipline. Now, this is depending on the age, obviously, but a self-discipline and an internal desire to learn would probably be the biggest factors in a child helping their own education process. I do want to add a little point to this question. Is I teach in a Christian high school. That by no way means that I teach all Christians. A lot of Christian schools are used as alternatives to public schools and nothing more. I mean, I probably could imagine that there's atheists. Well, I don't want to say atheists because I don't think they'd want to delude their children with these ideas. But, I mean, parents that are using the Christian school because maybe the other private schools in the area, or there are no other private schools in the area that are not faith-based, and they use them because they want their children to get a better education than the public school system. They want a smaller, closed system of education that they can use for their children. What I mean by that is a public school system, there's this long chain of command that you have to go through to find out why a children is maybe being taught one idea in particular, whereas in a private school, you're right that, you farthest you might have to go is the principal, and then you've got your answer, and if adjustments need to be made, they're made right there. There's no, school board voting on, no big drawn out board of directors that have to vote on the idea, nothing like that. So it does give them a little bit of, I guess you could say security into knowing what and why their children are being taught what they are. But obviously that entails that by no way do all of, students in Christian schools, are they Christians? Absolutely not. Let me just mention the prayer in schools issue really quick, okay? Do I think that prayer should be allowed in schools versus required in schools? And yes, I think it should be allowed. No, I don't think it should be required. And when I say required, I'm thinking back. I was reading a book just recently that where the author was mentioning how when prayers were done like over a PA system in what, the early 60s or something like that, right? Up until prayers were no longer a part of the morning pledges and whatnot routine. And this guy in the book had wrote that was one of the most irritating things, and he was a Christian, was that they would come on and they would ramble off this same prayer every single day, almost like it was a pledge. And he said it was just, even as a Christian, it was in one ear and out the other, because to him it wasn't praying. It was they were just reading off some script because that's what they had been doing for so long. So I don't think prayer should be in schools in that sense. But I think let's say a Christian in a public school, okay, and you have to remove your presupposition of God just couldn't exist or doesn't exist, or whatever your take on that is, and think for a minute. A Christian child studies all night for a test, and this Christian child knows that there's a God up there. Okay, that removing the atheist viewpoint altogether in this particular statement, this child is getting ready to take a test, and it eases their nerves, calms them down, and makes them feel better knowing that they have prayed and God is going to help them on this test. Should that be allowed? Could you give me a good reason why it shouldn't? Because I absolutely believe that should be okay, and I think that should be the individual idea and opinion of the child itself.